if you don't like the terrible economic numbers that are resulting from your failed economic policies, what do you do if you're Donald Trump? You fire the numbers. You just get rid of the numbers. Or you get rid of the independent, nonpartisan economist statistician that runs the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Erica McIntarfer, who you once appointed and kept on when she worked at the Census Bureau. You claim without any evidence whatsoever that her numbers showing that your economy actually lost an additional 278,000 jobs in May and June. You fire her because you don't like the numbers. And here's a little disclosure, a little investigative reporting. All of this was rigged by Donald Trump starting in February when he fired an economic statistics advisory board completely, had his commerce secretary do it, underfunded all of the economic data providers that are used by the Treasury, by the Fed, and by the government, so that we'd reach this moment in time where he would blame and fire the messenger for his bad economy. You're on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. We're doing the economy because Donald Trump just fired the only person that was being honest with the American people, and that chapped Donald Trump's backside, and he fired her. I'm Michael Popok. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. What just happened? 2 days ago, I reported on my morning economic roundup here on Legal AF that the Trumponomics was in full swing, or as Howard Lutnick recently put it, the Commerce Secretary, Donald Trump owns the economy. And I said, right, and he owns a failing economy. There's a reason they don't call it Trumponomics. It's because it is hurting the American people, whether it's the immigration policy, the tariffs policy, the impact on consumer pricing, consumer spending going into retrograde and going backwards, gross domestic product, the measure of how our economy grows or contracts in the contraction zone. And now I said before the job numbers came out that the Fed was worried about the job picture, that there weren't enough jobs being created by Trumponomics. In fact, quite the opposite. And then the bottom fell out yesterday, on Friday, with the announcement that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which works under the Labor Department, who is responsible and is the gold standard around the world for reliable, honest appraisal of the job picture, had gone back and looked at May and June numbers for Donald Trump's production of new jobs and revised it by 258,000 downward, meaning whatever the numbers were in May and June, the real numbers for May and June were just 19,000 jobs. It's a country of over 300 million people. 19,000 jobs were made by Trump in May, 14,000 were made in June, and only 75,000, and that'll be revised, in July. Well, Donald Trump didn't like losing 258,000. He liked lying to the American people about the statistics that try to hold up and prop up his phony economic policies. So he fired, and even worse, he fired Erica McIntarfer, an economist, a statistician of the highest order, well-respected. She was confirmed by the Senate. Get this. She was confirmed by the Senate 86-8. You can't get 86 senators to agree on how to order from Sweetgreens. 86-8? And one of the 86 was, wait for it, Vice President J.D. Vance when he was a senator. She was fine when she worked in the Census Bureau for Donald Trump. She was fine when she worked in the Census Bureau for George W. Bush and for Obama. And then Biden put her in January to run the labor statistics. And then Donald Trump, without any, this is the galling part, without any evidence whatsoever, in fact, there is no evidence, said that she rigged it on purpose to make him look bad. Right. A career economist that just wants to keep her job throughout administrations is suddenly going to nail Donald Trump. And he said, well, she helped Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and now she's rigging it against me. So let's go back to what she did in November of 2024, right before the election. She announced that the Biden and Kamala Harris economy just grew by 12,000 jobs that month. 12,000. That's less than what she just said Trump did. Even with the revision, he still did 19,000 and 14,000 per month. So how did that help Kamala Harris? It doesn't. It doesn't. And this is just another example in a long string of not just attacks on professionals and nonpartisan professionals, but a lot of women. Let's call it for what it is. He's bashing yet another woman in a position of power, claiming that she's not competent. First, Pete Hegseth fired all of the women who were admirals and generals who were running major divisions and departments within the Department of Defense, and he fired them all. Minority, not minority, just if they're woman, they're out the door. Claiming DEI, right? He got rid of the black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He got rid of every woman in a position of authority within the military. That's one. Then he went after her. Then he went after all the U.S. attorneys, many of them women. Every time you hear a firing of a federal official, it's a woman. When he got rid of all of the inspectors general who are responsible for finding corruption, for finding violations of ethics, for finding fraud within each department and division of the government, each one has its own inspector general. Most of them were women. And he fired them because he wanted to get rid of the watchdogs. He wanted to get rid of the sentinels. Same thing here. I said at the top of the hot take that this rigging of Donald Trump's economy started with Donald Trump, of course. As early as February, he mothballed, he shuttered a group that was responsible for providing the world and providing proper advice on economic statistics. And it was done by, who else? Howard Lutnick, who recently just said 2 days ago, this is now the Trump economy. I agree with that. So he got rid of the Federal Economic Statistics Advisory Committee. What do you think the Federal Economic Statistics Advisory Committee does? They provide oversight and advice to all of the entities within the government that are responsible for providing economic and other data and statistics, including what? The Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so they got rid of it. I'm going to put it up on the screen. He actually just announced your job is over, your mission is complete, and you are now shuttered as of February 28th of 2025. Out of business. Thank you. See you next time. Even then, Lutnick, for Donald Trump, was saying that the economic statistics are not accurate. And he wanted, for instance, as the Commerce Secretary, to change how we measure gross domestic product, the metric for measuring economic growth in the country. He said, I think we should have two numbers. We should have the numbers from the private sector, and we should have the numbers from the government. No, that's not how our economy works. Our economy works by the government helping to maintain, through monetary policy at the central bank and through investment and public-private partnerships and money to the states, keeps our economy tethered to the earth. But right away, they wanted to uncouple that because they were going to cut so much in federal spending. They wanted to hide the impact on the economy by coming up and cooking the books with phony numbers. That's as early as the very beginning of this administration. And now the chickens have come home to roost in beginning of August. By August 1 now, February, March, April, May, June, July, right? 6 months later, what do you got? We got to get rid of the rigged economist. Whoever heard of a rigged statistician, a rigged economist? I know Mark Twain once said, I'm not sure he really said it, but he's given the quotation of there's three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. I get it, okay? But Bureau of Labor Statistics is considered not even the gold standard, the platinum standard for economic data. And now this is why we have 3 full buildings at the Federal Reserve of independent analysts working for the Fed and not for the Trump administration, providing proper data, because you can't trust the Trump administration. They don't like the number, they change the number. All they need, their economic data and their economic sell job to America, all they need is a giant eraser and whiteout. Well, what's that number 5? Let's make it 10. This is how Donald Trump, this is the same person who got caught and it owes a $500 million civil fraud judgment to the state of New York because he did the exact same thing with his own personal financial statements. What's my number? 1 billion? I don't want to be 1 billionaire. I want to be a 2 billionaire. Well, what can we do, boss? I don't know. Increase the value. Use your pencil. Increase the value of every one of my assets. It's what I say. The value is what I say it is. So just double the numbers. Well, I mean, the guy that thinks his his financial statement can be stretched like Gumby into anything he says it is. Of course he wants the same thing to happen with the federal economy that he's responsible for. And now what we're seeing is the bottom completely drop out of the economy. It's not just the jobs down now. The lowest job growth, lack of job growth since 2020 and COVID. And who was responsible for that? Right, Donald Trump. Just to remind everybody, in case you didn't know, it is Democrats that create more jobs in their administrations than Republicans. Democrats create more jobs than Republicans historically over the last 60 years than Republicans. Why people trust the Republicans with the economy, I have no idea, although that's starting to stop. New polling shows that America does not trust Donald Trump with the economy, and that 60% think he's doing a terrible job with tariffs, with jobs, and the economy. But the other numbers are just as bad. GDP is down. Gross domestic product is down 1.7% in the first half of the year, all because of Trump. And that is not good. When you have slowing engine of development combined with rising prices that are going to go up even higher because what? The tariffs are going to be imposed by all these countries, or they're going to be paid by the importers. Let's be frank, the countries aren't paying the tariffs. The importers are paying the tariffs, and they're passing the number along to the consumer. It just hasn't shown up yet in the numbers, but it will. Chasing human beings who work for a living and pay taxes through the streets of America to put them in cages is going to show up in the economic data, and Donald Trump knows it. That's why he just fired the statistician. And let's get J.D. Vance to come on Legal AF and tell me why he confirmed her along with 86 of his other members, and now he thinks she's somehow rigging the numbers. Job picture, terrible. Consumer pricing, higher, not lower. I thought that's why he ran for office. Consumer spending down. That's an engine that drives the economy. Pricing to go up even higher. What does that tell you? Failed economic policies. Donald Trump is lashing out and firing and making the economist statistician a scapegoat. We're not going to let her here on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here. I do a morning economic roundup. I put it the best way I can with my Wall Street experience, combined with my legal experience and my political experience. Every morning on Legal AF, first episode of the day, first video of the day is something about Trumponomics and what it means for you and what we can do about it. I'll continue to follow it all. Hit the free subscribe button. Until my next hot take, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.